Hello everyone, and welcome to my next lecture in this section, this one being on writing authentic dialogue. That's easy for you to say. So the point of writing authentic dialogue is that you don't want to lose the readers. You don't want the readers to go, aha, what is that? You don't want to grab their attention. In fact, to some degree, you just want them to settle in, get used to it, and go for the ride and not notice it. So at first, they are going to notice it, though, because what you're doing is you're using dialogue to set certain things. And I wanted to take an aside here to talk about that. So let's look at this first one. Excuse me, Mr. William. Would you please step this way? Notice how proper this dialogue is. Could you see this coming from maybe a butler of a master house in England? I could see that. And right away, I don't need to say who's speaking, and you're getting these senses from the dialogue. Now compare this talking to Mr. William to this talking to Mr. William. Billy, you useless sack of flesh, Pa bellowed. Get yourself over here right now before I take my belt to you. And you notice the exclamation marks and the ya instead of you and Billy instead of William. Suddenly we're setting a tone here. William or Billy and his father's pa relationship does not seem to be real good. And you've established that strictly through dialogue. You haven't said, well, you did say who's speaking here, but you haven't said a lot about the relationship, but you've said a mouthful, haven't you? Just by what Pa said to Billy. So what is the key to writing effective dialogue? This is what I find. Finding your character's voice. To find your character's voice, you must become your character. In fact, my wife, who's an accomplished New York published author, actually suggested that I go so far as to recommend speak the character's dialogue out loud. Actually become them. Say the words. Make it feel natural. If it feels natural, it should feel natural to the reader. Okay, so consider, here's some more points if that doesn't get across. Here's the detailed list. Okay, so use local vernacular and language to support the setting and defined place. In Maine, they say ya and stuff like that. They say y'all in the south of the United States. They might say particular words in particular countries that kind of set the country. That would be a neat to put in little words like y'all and ya and set the place. Avoid anachronisms such as modern tools and language when you're writing historically or off-world, right? Somebody's not going to look at their Timex and they're not going to think that things are totally cool if you're talking about somebody in Elizabethan England. So watch those modernisms and anachronisms if you're writing historically or in a particular setting. Now, when inventing a new language or writing in Gaelic or Welsh or one of these wild languages, avoid too much realism. In other words, keep it recognizable to the modern readers. Some of these words can get really bizarre, and you don't want too many bizarre words, or your author's just going to go, this isn't written in English anymore, I'm not even interested. So pull back from too much realism when it comes to setting. Consider giving each character some distinctive mannerism or affectation so that readers can recognize that character from the other characters. Instead of having a list of characters and stuff like that, have somebody who speaks with a lisp, and you can insert that or suggest that in the writing. Have someone who is a very proper speaker, and always write very proper dialogue for that character. Have your Scottish characters. Have somebody that walks with a limp. All of these things you want to do to set out a character. And we're going to talk about that more in detail when we get to defining characters. But in the meantime, this is a word of advice when it comes to dialogue. Make it real. Speak it out loud. So consider this. I shan't be able to ride the road at night. Can't you hear that just in speaking it? Aye, yeah, shan't at that, young laddie. Best you stay the night. So you can hear who is the Scottish lord or a savior and who is the London dandy, right? In just the way that those words are spoken. So I like my wife's idea of speaking it out loud so that you can get the idea. Anyway, that's the idea of authentic dialogue. We talked before in the previous section about how to quote dialogue and the mechanics of writing it. Well, this is the more advanced subtlety of making it appropriate to the character in the setting. So I hope you understand that. I hope I've given you enough. And up next comes tension and suspense, building dread in what you write. I'll see you there.